Well, sorry about being a day late. We did this. Weren't exactly sure how this was going to go with the 72-hour period. Everything's always been a one-day thing. So we actually had some kids we thought were going to sign today or even on Friday. So we kind of said everything was going to be like on a Thursday. But everything took place yesterday. Everybody signed their letters. There's nobody else really for us in the next 72 hours. So for us right now, we're incredibly excited. This is one of those times that, you've worked so long in our first real opportunity. Last year we had basically 3 weeks actually to go out, maybe 5 weeks to kind of prepare a class for what we wanted. I think we took 3/4 or a third of our class last year was guys that were already pretty much committed, and a few of them that were actually entering campus before we really got the whole staff and everything together. So this was the first full year of recruiting, and I think for us that gives us an opportunity to have a lot better relationship, know exactly about who these kids are, what they bring to our program, where we see them, and how they would fit. And I think that's going to give us a better chance for some of these guys, as you'll probably ask, to have a better opportunity to come in and contribute even as freshmen, because they've had the relationship, and when they walk in the door, we'll be able to motivate, push, and do some more things that maybe we didn't have the opportunity to do with those group last year. I think from the get-go, I'd probably say excited, and the guys that started this thing off, Ty Van Fossen and Blake Basefish, were two guys that were the first two guys really to jump in and really get this thing moving. And then after them, I think between Malik Van and Josh Wiley were the guys that kind of took it over the top. They're the guys that really kind of stepped out from the comfort zone and what a lot of people would say with the opinions of where they should go, and whether it's their own classmates, people of the community, two guys that had an incredible opportunities to go just about anywhere they'd like. And they stood tall and wanted to stay home and believed in what it is that we're doing and where we're headed. And to me, that took us a long way. That was probably the catalyst to really motivate and moving this class to where we are right now. And those guys were not just great ambassadors, but also great recruiters for us throughout this entire thing. I think there's 6 guys from the state of Cincinnati, the greater 50-mile radius, that we're excited about, and a bunch of guys from incredible programs. And I think that's where we kind of step back and say, yes, it's about rankings and where all these guys are and what positions they are, but it's not about who are the best ones. It's about who are the right ones. And when you can take guys from programs like St. X and Coleraine and LaSalle, St. Francis de Sales, St. Edwards, Akron, Hoban, Solon, programs like that a lot of state championships. I think we have 6 guys coming in here with state titles under their belt, not just this past year, but in their high school career. And that's something, obviously, winning is a habit, and we want to bring that into our program. We want to be about that. So I think that's a big thing for us. We're always talking about not who are the 11 best, but the best 11 that we put on the field. Those guys are going to believe and buy into the things that we're doing. And I think for our first real full year of putting together a recruiting class, we feel like we're bringing in the guys that are true, not that we didn't last year, but truly guys across the board that we know the most about and feel like that they can insert, be a part of, enhance the culture which we've created already here.
Coach, they say you miss a lot more often than you hit in recruiting, but with this class, it felt like you were able to stay pretty true to what your recruiting board looked like. Is that a testament to your staff, and how do you overcome that to produce the result that you did?
It did, and I think the early signing period was one of those things you just weren't sure about. So for us to build the relationships that we did for the coaches, I mean, that's really when it comes down to it, everything was going to be kind of accelerated with this signing period being early, and I thought it was going to put a lot of pressure on some kids. So we were hard on the coach. Hey, even during the season, man, we need to continue to create and develop and enhance the relationships we have with these guys, because these things are going to happen fast. And you got to give credit to our coaches. I mean, there's a lot of guys that came, there's a lot of turnover in college football. And when turnover happens in some of these, from all the way from the Florida States of the world to whoever, when those things happen and they come firing in with 2 weeks to go in recruiting and trying to get guys not to sign, guys to hold off, the relationships that were built with the coaches, they've done an incredible job at building those relationships, and guys didn't budge. And I think that's where you kind of say you've known now, you've had that year to know exactly who these kids are. And I think that it really showed when it kind of stayed true, and there was no, big things that happened maybe in the last week or so in recruiting because of the relationships the coaches have built.
What's your initial impression of the early signing day?
I love it. I think it's really, really good. I think it's for us in some ways because of the way we do recruit. We get on guys early. We build those relationships. We're true to what we're doing. I think sometimes the toughest thing in recruiting is figuring out exactly what's real. And I know for an 18-year-old, 17-year-old that's going through it for the first time, families that are going through it for the first time, coaches and colleges in general have become much better at recruiting and those kinds of things, and it is kind of, there are some gray areas. So for us to be able to tell these guys that we want them to sign on the 20th because they're really important to us, and we don't want them wavering. We don't want guys to wait and hold on and not know. And so I think it clarifies a lot of things for the kids. Not much for us, a little bit for us too. If we had a kid that wasn't going to sign, was going to wait till February, we'd probably have a good idea that they're still out there looking. So I think it clarifies a lot of things for all of us, but more importantly to the 17, 18, 19-year-olds, those high school seniors.
Coach, it feels like every time I saw you on a high school sideline around here, it was pouring down rain, freezing cold, or something like that, and you were just out there taking it. But to go out there and to show those kids that they matter, and to see them sign, how rewarding is that for you just to win Cincinnati in a way?
It is. I think yesterday was probably one of the more rewarding times. Was when all those kids showed up over here, and it's kind of, you know, are you allowed to? Or once they signed the letter of intent, and you know that they're in the proximity, they were so happy and excited to come down on campus, take pictures, their families and things like that. It really showed us what it meant, and we mentioned those two guys, a couple of those guys that started the thing off, guys that really kind of jump started us, and you know with some of the opportunities that they had, it was great to see them come down to the joy that they had in it. I think for us, that's when you start to really step back. And yeah, you know, they're going to be football players. They're going to be really good football players for you. But to see the pride that they have, not just in their program and their university and their community, we know that's what we're trying to build. And I think that it goes even further than what you guys will see on Saturdays when they step on the football field. They're darn good football players. But the meaning that they're going to have inside that locker room on a day-to-day basis, the pride they're going to take, the ownership they're going to take in the program, it'll last a lifetime.
You talked about what it meant to the recruiting class to land Josh Wiley and Malik Vann. What did it mean to you in terms of the vision that you thought, you know, when we got here, what can we do? And was that kind of, we can do this? Yeah,
it shows us that we're doing the things the right way, and it shows us we're recruiting in the right way. And what I mean by that is we're going to pay the most attention to this 50-mile radius. And it doesn't matter who's been offered, who's offered those guys in the 50 miles. You still, in recruiting in general, you got to find out where you're going to spend your time, and you don't want to spin your tires and waste an incredible amount of time on, you know, something that might not be realistic. But we truly believe that it's not time wasted, especially inside this 50-mile radius. That we're going to build relationships with those guys, continue to encourage them to get down, to get them to understand who we are and what we're all about, and it showed, and it paid off. Because there's a lot of people that have told you, you know what, don't waste your time recruiting some of those guys. And there's other guys that you did recruit, and you spent an awful lot of time in, and maybe it didn't go that way, and it didn't work out the way you wanted it to, but you wouldn't change it, you know, and you continue to build those relationships, you continue to do it, you continue to take those swings, and to see them pay off, and I mean that just so far that they're here, but they'll pay off, you know, for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
You mentioned it's about getting the right guys, not just the best guys, but when you have a lot of outside validation about your class, and I think a lot of people have Cincinnati as the top non-Power 5 class in the country, is that validation good for you?
It does. I mean, on this day, yes. On yesterday, yes. The things that make me so much more excited really is they're great to talk about. I mean, again, if they're going to keep track and they're going to rank them, then we want to win. And to say we're first in the conference and 46th or 47th, whatever it is nationally, we're going to continue to strive to be better. But to know what those guys bring and what it is that we're trying to build, and the ownership, and, you know, we talk about representing the C, we talk about owning the C, earning the C, those kinds of things. We know, I know from getting to know these guys how much further it goes and how long it will last. It's one thing, like you said, for guys to come in here that can make plays for you on the football field. And probably one of the biggest things I've learned from this year is our ability not just to, you know, put players in place and do the things we got to do, but it's also to build this thing from the inside out, which we talked about. And it starts in the locker room. And to have the right kind of kids, meaning the kids that, you know, even those guys that are locally from here that have had taken pride. I mean, you know, the Josh Wileys that have family that go to school here, Malik Vann, who's be a third-generation kid. His grandmother graduated from UC. His mother graduated from UC. he'll be the third generation to graduate from UC. Those kinds of things go a long way.
Offensively, you wanted to get more explosive. Can you talk about the guys, the skill guys that you brought in offensively and their ability to do that?
Well, if you really look at it, there's a lot of guys probably that should be listed as athletes, a lot of guys that played quarterback in high school, and I think that you're going to continue to see that from us specifically, whether it's offensively or defensively. We're going to recruit the guys. If I'm a high school coach, I know darn well I'm going to have one of my best players or best athletes catching the ball some way, somehow, and getting it in his hands. So a lot of these guys, which, maybe the Yanez Rogers, those kind of guys, Colin. Oh, yeah, but he's a tailback. But again, a guy who played quarterback. There's so many guys that played some different positions, but to put them in positions, are they wide receivers? Are they tailbacks? I mean, those two guys in general, like Ryan Montgomery, are different than our freshman tailbacks. They're more guys that add a little bit of more versatility. They aren't the bigger, thicker guys like Mike Warren and Jared Dokes. So we added ourselves some versatility. But even sometimes you look at the DBs and you look at the wide receivers, and a lot of those guys played some quarterback. And I think those are guys that transition, whether they can play quarterback or not, transition to other positions, not just because they're athletes, but they understand the game of football as well.
Michi Harris was a guy that you identified very early in the process. Didn't go your way initially, but you guys stayed with it. Can you talk about bringing him in the fold?
I think that's a great example of who we are and what we're all about. And I think Joker Phillips did an unbelievable job. We respect guys when they do commit other places. But when you build such a strong relationship, it's never really done. And I think that's one of those things where you just kind of see that, over time, things will prevail. And when you build a great relationship and you kind of see that because of recruiting and how it is and, the focus of what happens in a short amount of time, I think when kids, right before they sign that letter and they put their name to paper, they really start to think. It's easy sometimes to make a decision when you're 2 months away or a month away and what's flashy and what's exciting at the time, but when all of a sudden you know what you're gonna do and how long it's gonna be and how permanent the decision is, I think that's one of those things that Coach Phillips had built such a great relationship with him that when it came down to it, I think he really realized where his heart was and who had his best interest at mind and where he could probably thrive the best. And so we're excited to have him. It was a little bit of a surprise there in the last few days, but it's not too, only because of the job that Coach Joker did building that relationship and continue to stay with him throughout the entire season.
First 280-pound, 6'9" German you've ever recruited?
Yes, it's actually the first German kid that I probably will be a part of in developing in football. It was a little bit nervous at the first when we first were talking about it, but kind of did some research. Coach Tenuta is a guy that's had a few of them that he's coached, whether it was at Georgia Tech or NC State. There's a few other guys on the staff that had been around. I know they had one here at the Bengals, I think, that played at SMU. And you're just trying to look back in the history to say, okay, how have these guys transitioned into college football, and the timing and how much time do they have, because there's a lot of different hoops that they have to jump through, and there's a lot of things for our university to be able to jump through as well as for the kids. So, but I guess after last year with the success we had of bringing a kid from Australia, I know he's a kicker and things, but he's probably our only all-league player that he's a true freshman from Australia that had great success, transitioned very well. It gave us a little bit more of that push to say, hey, this can really work.
When you have a 4-8 season like you had, does that affect recruiting? Is that something you have to get past?
No, it can. I think that if you don't know, Dylan O'Quinn, there's a kid, they said it today, he committed, and we talked about it, he was committed someplace else. He came here, he was here for the UCF game and committed afterwards. If you were here for the UCF game and committed afterwards, you got to be able to believe that, somebody's doing something. Coach Phillips had a great relationship with him. He obviously seen some things that he really wanted to see, and I think that's where, guys are surprised when they do come. I mean, yes, the record wasn't great, and it's not something we shy away from. I talk about it. I don't deny the fact of it. It's easy to evaluate. But there's other things that these guys are looking for, and they know that it's a process. They're going to walk into something. They also believe that, hey, maybe that gives them a better opportunity to come in and play too. But like I said, when we started this thing, we were selling ourselves. We're selling our vision and where we're headed. We all see better than we hear. But in the reality of this, they understand that this is a 4-year, 5-year process for them as student athletes, and they got to put their faith and belief in the people that they think, can get them where they want to go by the end of their career.
You've got one quarterback on here. How important was it for you to get a quarterback?
Well, I think that starts the classes in pretty much every year, and those are usually the guys that kind of fall in place, and it's a trickle-down effect, I guess, from the start. But we early on didn't probably had a narrow scope of quarterbacks that we were looking at, and it's crazy how things kind of happen. But it was about midway. We obviously got Ben early on, maybe in the summer or later in the summer. Even that, as we got into the season, we kind of just said, hey, keep challenging our recruiting department to say, okay, just keep watching these guys. Watch them through their senior year. See what else is out there continually, just so that we have references, and who knows what's going to happen. And the great thing about Ben was until they watched him his entire senior year, and they continued to look around the country at the things, and they said, look, we can't, there's not a better quarterback out there. And we haven't seen a better quarterback even ranking for us, even in the next year's class. So we're really excited about Ben, and to have him actually coming in here in about 3 weeks makes it even more exciting.
Seems like every year around this time, there's something said around the country, and people dive into unfair recruiting tactics. Are there unwritten rules? Are there things that are unfair, things you wouldn't say when you get in a room?
No, again, it depends on who you want to be. I think for us and our staff, we've kind of made it real clear. We're not. Everybody puts their best foot forward, and I tell the kid, we show you our dorm rooms here for a reason. Why do you think? Because they're really nice. Because we have an incredible living arrangement for you guys. We're going to put our best foot forward, but we're also not going to lie to you. We're going to tell you it's a really tough, hard-nosed program. We're going to have an incredible expectation for you. And I think what that does is it just builds it. If that's not what they're about, I tell them, if you're looking for a new 43-year-old best friend, this is probably not the best place for you. But we want to be as honest and as real as we possibly can in recruiting. And I think that, that helps us to get the right ones. The ones that are looking for the flash, the ones that are looking for a new indoor facility, the ones that are looking for a brand new locker room and all the new amenities that maybe are out there at different programs. That's not the ones that we're going to get. That's not the ones that we believe are going to be the ones we're going to build our culture around. So are there unwritten rules? No, I think in recruiting, unfortunately, pretty much anything goes, but what it comes down to is, what are you comfortable with? I don't want to trick a kid into coming here, because if he walks through that door, and in order for us to develop, and we believe we're going to develop kids better than anybody in the country, how are you going to be able to do that? You got to have an incredible relationship with them. If you have an incredible relationship with them, what can you do? You can push them, you can motivate them, you can take them to places they don't even believe that they can go. But if your relationship starts on lies and, smoke and mirrors, when they walk in the door, now you got to build a whole new relationship with them, and we don't have the time to do that. We got to make sure that we do this thing the right way, and we start on the right foot, and that starts off with honesty of what we're doing.
Did it mean anything special to you for your first full recruiting class? You go into your alma mater and get your first recruiting time?
Yeah, it does, because again, it's important to us to take the right kids and the kids that come from these programs, and not every kid's going to, and I'm not saying every kid comes from a state championship program. Ty's not from a state championship program. He didn't win a state championship. But these guys that come from programs that, like we keep saying, they're going to have to sacrifice in those programs. They have to commit. They have to do some different things. There's a standard and an expectation that's set in those programs. When those guys walk into our culture, they'll have a lot better chance to fit. It's not going to be a complete shock to them. They're not going to spend 90% of their energy trying to change the habits at which they have, and realize, oh my gosh, I got to sacrifice for my teammate, and I got to put my teammate above myself. No, because that's been a standard that they've set in their program. So to come from my high school that I know that has those kinds of standards, I think it's exciting, but it also makes me know that guy's going to have an opportunity to walk in here and not be surprised at the expectation level and the amount of discipline, the standard that we have set for the guys in our program.
Maybe a personal opinion, but Arquan Bush on tape stands out as a guy that could come in and potentially help right away. What's the process of getting a kid like that and kind of sneaking in and sneaking out with a commitment?
Well, that's one of those ones right there that this is why you love Ohio high school football and Ohio high school coaches. Jeff Rodsky did an unbelievable job. When that kid committed to us, he basically stood strong, and knowing that there's a lot of guys that are going to commit, because he is a different athlete for us. And Arquan's got to stay focused. And when you have the relationship with those high school coaches like that, that you believe him, you trust him, you can continue to do your work and not have to worry about every guy that's going to walk in those programs and things. So Arquan is one of those guys, and at those positions, guys can walk in and have a little bit better chance at walking in and having an immediate impact. And I think Arquan could be one of those guys. It's not going to be as much as what does he understand and what does he know if he's playing the corner position, as well as what can he do, how quickly can he adapt, and can he play at the speed we need him to play at. So twofold. I'm excited about him because I do think he could come in and have a quick and immediate impact because of his skill set, his position. But I'm even more excited to know that you've got a relationship built there at that program and with Coach Rotsky and that school, that when guys put their name down and they say they're going to do something, they continue to do it.
Okay. Special teams has been a focus since you got here. There's 4 or 5 guys on this list that have had pretty electric careers playing as returners and special teams players. Was that a byproduct of just getting skill guys, or was that focus?
It's always, you're always trying to pick those guys and put them into slots. Hey, who's going to be a return guy? Right now, I don't know, last year we had a guy that we could say this is a return guy. We ended up with kickoff returns with Mike Warren back there. Punt returns, is a mixture. Guys are continuing to roll through. So that's one of those things that you say, what is their value on special teams? What is also their value as a special team player, not just as a returner? I think Alec Pierce is one of those guys that, what position is he? Well, he's listed as a wide receiver. Yeah, but he's 6'3", 195 pounds. I don't know. He might be the first wide receiver that's playing on every single special team for us so far. Will set a different standard for us. He might be an outside linebacker in a couple of years. Who knows? But those guys, you look at them, you say, okay, what are their value? What's their special teams value? We definitely try to look at all those things when we evaluate, the right ones.
How much time do you have to pat yourself on the back with this recruiting class before you get right back into it, or have you already started?
Yeah, we said congratulations this morning to the entire staff. We said, okay, now let's go over the 50-mile radius in the state of Ohio, and let's make sure we got a pinpoint on the the top 30, 40 guys in our area. So, no, we're excited. I mean, and we've been excited for a while. Like I said, yesterday was a great day. We'll be even more excited when 4 of these guys walk in here January 7th when they start school. But that's just kind of the nature of the beast. We've had these guys. We felt good about these guys for quite a while. I think the best thing, there was a joke when some of those guys came over yesterday. They called and they say, hey, Coach, where is it we park? And where are we going again? We said, hey, you already signed, figure it out. So we had a little bit more fun with them, and you kind of changed the light of things. But I know we'll be excited. I know our team. It's the amazing thing, the thing that I don't think we all realized, and I don't think I realized, is the notice that our team takes, that they follow this. I wouldn't have thought that, but they follow it. And they're asking. And they know and they believe on where we're headed. They see what kind of kids were here last year, and how successful that those kids had in adapting to what it is we're doing. And it's amazing when they keep asking us and are talking about these guys that are coming in, because they know in order for us to be successful, they're going to have to surround themselves with great people and great players. And whether they're seniors, going to be seniors, or they're going to be juniors, or even the class from last year, you can hear them talking about it and wanting to continue to recruit because they believe in what it is we're doing.
Several of your players got offers from Ivy League schools. Is that a testament to the type of student athletes that you're getting?
I'm not sure that they would get an offer to an Ivy League school if they weren't a darn good student athlete, but yeah. And again, all those things figure into what we say is the right ones. There's no substitute for intelligence, and you got to recruit it. I'm not saying every single guy walking in that locker room is, got the highest of high IQ. No, you're going to have a mixture of everything. You're going to have a mixture of every walk of life that you got. But we put a high emphasis that there's no substitute for intelligence. Intelligent people find a way to be successful, whether it's on the football field, in the classroom, in the community. The more success we'll have is within, a different spot, but definitely something that we take into consideration.